After over a year of making fun of this character, it is finally time for the highly anticipated Knoll solo run. This character has probably been the most requested character ever since I've started doing this series. Kind of insane how much you all have rallied behind Knoll against me, and today the time has finally come to find out if you can beat Fire Emblem, the Sacred Stones, using, can't believe I'm saying this, Knoll only. And before we get started, a very special shout out is in order because this run wouldn't have happened this soon without a certain viewer. So a few months back in December, I held a Christmas special stream, and on that stream I set up a goal that if we reach 150 members, the next solo run would be the Knoll run that you're watching right now. And while I'd like to thank every single person who contributed towards that goal, whether it was becoming a member or gifting memberships, a viewer by the name of Scott gifted over 100 memberships to make sure that we would reach the goal, and ultimately was a big part of making this happen. So please do me a favor, and everyone in the comment, please type "thank you, Scott." All right, now that the must-deserved shout out is out of the way, let me detail the rules of these challenges for those who are new around here. First off, I can use only Knoll. I have to play on hard mode. No cheats allowed. Only a single healing item per map is permitted, unless one is dropped by enemies or grabbed through a chest or village or regular means. And I am not permitted to take more healing items out of the convoy, but I can use the convoy for anything else. Only healing items are off limits. Okay, the rules are out of the way. Hopefully you're cozied up, got some popcorn ready, because I got a feeling this might be a long one. Let's get this show on the road. And it would feel wrong to start the Knoll run without properly acknowledging him in the customary way of this channel, which is by watching him die and making a snarky remark. So, bye-bye, Knoll. And speaking of Knoll perishing once again, this brings me to the sponsor of this video, which is myself. Yes, I'm using this video as an opportunity to announce that I've officially launched my first ever merch line. And of course it had to feature Knoll, who has carved himself a special place on this channel. But here it is, featuring our Knoll Rip emote. And I'm really proud of how it all turned out. So if you want to get your hands on some exclusive KratosMVN merch, check out the link in the description below. It would mean a lot to me if you did. And also channel members get a 10% discount on all merch orders. All right, that's enough self-promotion. Let's get back to the video. But buy the merch, please. So as we begin to talk about Knoll's starting stats, as you've been seeing, he's not gonna run into too many problems early on, given that he starts at level 10. But let's look at his bases in a little bit more detail. And the eagle-eyed viewer will have noticed that I made a slight mistake while integrating his HP. Knoll should actually begin with 22 instead of 21. And I have a perfectly good explanation for my mistake. Knoll internally in the game begins at level 9 and gets auto-leveled to 10, giving him an extra point in strength and HP. But I wasn't aware of that fact when setting up the run, so I kept getting the wrong values for his stats. So I decided to look at multiple different websites to double check my work to see if I was getting the right thing. And you'd think that that would have helped put me on the right track. But somehow that made things worse, because here are all the different results that were shown to me for what his base starting stats should look like. And for some reason, there's more than one answer out there. For some reason, I don't know what it is, but there seems to be a general confusion when it comes to this character's base stats. So it ended up confusing me more, and I think that's why I made the mistake, because I believe his stats are the one displayed on Serene's Forest, which are the ones you're seeing on screen right now. But I did make a mistake there, but I just want to defend myself in the end. As you'll see, the 1 HP mistake did not end up mattering for anything. But for now, his base stats aren't looking too terrible. He has the second highest base power behind Garrick and Cormag for an unpromoted unit, which is, you know, that's a good lineup to be with. His speed and his skill are pretty average, and his resistance is high up there in the top tier of all units in the game, for his bases, that is. Where his bases are, well, lacking for a level 10 unit that joins at a pretty late time is a base of 0 luck, which obviously is the lowest in the game, and a base of 2 defense, which is the second lowest in the game. But that's behind Ewan, you know, a training unit. Yeah, that's the only one as bad as him. is a trainee unit. Let that sink in. So overall, good highs, but some pretty low lows. Let's take a look at how his growths stack up to that. Beginning with HP, Knoll's 70% growth isn't necessarily the worst, but it is below the average. Knoll does have a pretty good 50% growth in terms of magic, which is one of the brighter spots, especially if you look at the numbers following that. 40% skill isn't fantastic, but it's pretty average, maybe a little below. 35% speed growth is really tough to get away with, especially in a solo run where speed is kind of crucial. And on that point, I didn't even touch on the point that makes this an even tougher buy, but we'll get to it in a moment. The next two stats are luck and defense, where he sports 20% and 10% growth respectively. And we've seen characters with the lowest growths in certain stats in the game before, but usually these characters have only one of those, or at least have the highest growth to make up for it in something else, right? But not Knoll. Knoll has two stats where he wins the title of lowest in the game. Defense and luck, of course. But finally, his resistance growth of 45% is not the best, but it's very close to being there. At least he's got that going for him. It might come in handy for some later maps. And I think a lot of you guys know which one I'm thinking of, but we'll get there in due time. The last thing I want to talk about is simple. It has to do with Knoll's constitution and the weight of Dark Tomes and FE8. Knoll, much like most mages in this game, has pretty low constitution. Begins with a starting base of 7. And he only gets an extra point in both his promo paths. So he will max out at 8 before any body ring comes into play. Which isn't that high by itself, but we've seen worse, you know? We've seen much worse. I am looking at you, loot. It's almost worse considering the Dark Tomes in FE8 are heavy. To give you a general idea of how bad it is, the basic Dark Tome, Flux, is the lightest one, coming in at a weight of 8. So not bad, only -1 speed before promo. That's kind of okay. But as you can see on the screen right now, it doesn't get better at all. It even goes all the way up to 20 weight, which is simply insane if you ask me. And we'll get into the differences between tomes a little later as we go through the video, because the one thing that's cool about dark magic in this game is each tome, or most tomes, have a little intricacy related to them that most other weapons don't have, which makes it a much more interesting talk than, you know, an iron lance, let's say. All in all, this gives you a pretty decent image of why low speed growth will feel a little worse for Knoll than for another character, let's say. It's now time to talk about the gameplay though. And as you must have been seeing, Knoll will do a lot of damage to enemies, even one-shotting some of the early bandits thanks to decent magic base and growths. But he'll suffer from poor defense and at times will perish from enemies at a much lower level than him. And even sometimes will be getting double when yielding the heavier Nosferatu due to his less than stellar speed. And early on here, I will rely heavily on Nosferatu given that the tome has a vampiric effect, which means I get to heal every time I do damage to the enemy units. Despite a few deaths early on here and there, which is generally doesn't happen that much, we'll make it to chapter 5, but our Nosferatu will be depleted by that time. Chapter 5 is an important stop, usually because of the first few stats boosters that we'll be able to grab on this map, that being the secret book and the dragon shield. But for magic units, it is doubly important because this map has a fun condition if you manage to visit all the houses. You get to have a guiding ring very early on. That means being able to promo in chapter 6, which is a pretty major advantage mages get over other units. This chapter never really poses a challenge, and you'd think that Knoll coming in at level 19 here shouldn't have too much of a problem, despite the fact that his stats are pretty average. Even having below average magic in 9 levels, only getting 3 level ups, yeah, that's pretty low. And as you may have been seeing right now, Knoll encounters a pretty big issue on this map. And that has to do with his pretty awful avoid stat, which is again directly related to his mediocre speed and outright horrible luck. So even when standing in the woods, he'll only find himself around the 40% mark in terms of dodging, meaning that very early on, we'll need to get some good luck. But let me take a minute to break down how this map needs to be approached in order to get the oh so important guiding ring. The big concern on this map has to do with the bandits' reinforcements, who have an AI that can be somewhat manipulated to your advantage. They spawn on the right side on turn 2, near the arena on turn 4, on turn 8, right above where the boss is standing. So there's sort of a beat the clock factor to this map that can make it interesting for solo runs, especially given that Joshua is standing in the middle of the map with a killing edge, ready to do terrible things to you. The bandit AI will direct the bandits towards the houses in the first place, so that will be somewhat of their, I want to say first priority, but it really won't be, because they will divert their attack if they are in range to attack the player. So if the bandit finds himself in attack range of a unit, they will divert their attack from the houses, giving you a chance to save them all pretty easily. So first up, we have to make sure we head for the stair area on the right side before the bandits arrive, and make sure that we force them to attack us. One problem there arises is that there are some of the enemy units that will also begin to move forward and swarm you, and they will also use the forest tiles around to their advantage as well. And once again, Knoll has a very average hit rate because the dark magic tomes have a not great hit rate generally. So the dance of having to hit the enemy and then dodging them will sometimes cost a few turns, forcing us to use more healing items than we'd want, but also costing us time. But we can do it, it's doable. It's pretty easy to take care of that first group of bandits. So once that's done, we will go and intercept the second group of bandits, and that entails walking in range of Joshua, who again has a killing edge, and we have 2 points in luck. The one thing we do get as an advantage here is another forest tile to allow ourselves maximum dodge chance. And as you can see, this is easier said than done and will generally cost us our last vulnerary. At least we didn't get crit by Joshua, so that's good. And then after that, the final step is to stop the last group. But for the first time, we don't have a forest tile to help us out and give us an oh so welcome 20% more void. And if we get in the range of the bandits here, it's not only the bandits that we're going to attract, it's a whole bunch of soldiers and fighters, which we'll have to take with no more vulnerary and a semi-favorable hit rate. Okay, so here we go. We'll use our last vulnerary and we'll end the turn. The soldier attacks us and hits us for 57% chance to hit. We will clear most of these guys out in one hit. The bandit, okay, we dodged at 53% hit, so that's pretty good. Okay, we still have a couple more. Another one, we dodge another 55. That's crazy. Okay, there's no way we're gonna dodge all of these at 57. Okay. Okay, this might be the, I don't know what's gonna go, but god damn it, that 57 hit us in the end. Yeah, it wasn't meant to be. We got extremely lucky, and even beyond that, I don't know how we would have killed the boss there, but still, we almost did it. We almost did it. And it was also the closest we got to saving the 4 houses. And again, as I previously mentioned, we did get some lucky dodges here, especially considering the hit rate system of Sacred Stones being known as 2RN, which is that the displayed hit rate isn't the right one. And I'm not going to go into the full explanation. I've done it in previous videos, but essentially hit rates above 50% are boosted positively and hit rates below 50% are negatively reduced. And by the way, what you're seeing on screen is pretty much another whole 40 minutes of playing at 3 times speed. So I have to change my approach here because this map simply isn't working. I could take it a little slower and give up on the first guiding ring, but the next one is only available on chapter 10 of Erica's route. And if an almost level 20 Knoll is struggling on chapter 5, I'm not so sure how we'll get to chapter 10 without a whole lot of luck. And remember that we have to kill Sar. This is a kill the boss map, so slowing things down does not necessarily mean that we'll get through the map still easily. It might still be a little tough. So we're kind of in a bind. But that's when I think about something quite important. Knoll begins with a Nosferatu tome, which we can use to replenish our health once we run out of vulneraries. and I did not use it efficiently at first. I wasted it on maps that I probably should not have. I didn't think it was going to come in this handy. I wasn't expecting to struggle this early on, I'll be honest. I don't like Knoll, but I gave him a little bit of credit here, and I think that's my mistake. I assumed he was going to be okay early on, but turns out I should have just went with my gut and assumed he was just bad. That means we have to reset early, which, by the way, a chapter 5 reset is a first in all of these runs. I was expecting a reset eventually, not on chapter 5. Not on chapter 5, I'm going to tell you. I knew there was a good reason I disliked this character. Only him could pull off something like that. So let's start over, but this time we will minimize our use of Nosferatu early on, only when necessary. I won't bore you with the extra details, but we're back on chapter 5 with Nosferatu to help us out. And spoiler alert, it's going to be a whole lot easier. Which is why, as you're going to see this breakdown ahead of you, I'll start talking about our level 20 Knoll that we have here and talking about the promotion options, because they're a heavily debated topic in my comment sections usually. And we can already see that this Knoll here is much better in terms of stats than the previous one, so that might have helped a little bit. Also, keep in mind that the stats you are seeing right now are when you add the modifiers from the Dragon Shield and the Secret Book. But his strength and skill are doing much better than before, even one-rounding certain enemies with Flux on chapter 5. So after chapter 5X, I'll have the opportunity to promo. And I want to talk about the promotion path because a lot of comments regarding Knoll have asked me to use him specifically as a summoner. And there are a couple of reasons why summoner is usually favored for Knoll in a normal run, and that is the ability to summon phantoms, which is exclusive to the summoner class, and it's pretty freaking cool ability, to be fair, so that's why people generally like it. But you know, outside of that, Knoll as a general rule of thumb is a pretty abysmal combat unit, and it's not because his stats are that bad. It's usually has more to do with the fact that Dark Magic and FE8 is pretty god-awful, and he arrives late, so his damage output versus your other characters will fall off. So the utility provided by the summoner class can be quite useful at times, since phantoms only have a single point of HP, which means that more often than not, they will draw the attacks of enemies onto themselves, which can be useful in a variety of scenarios to save another unit, set a trap. The applications of phantoms are pretty varied at large. And there are a few fun applications of this mechanic for solo runs that are possible. But what about the other promotion path? The Druid. Well, the big advantage they have has to do with very slightly better stat caps, but like extremely slight, and access to anima magic, which gives you the chance to use Excalibur, which is the best out of the 3 legendary tome due to its passive skill of +5 speed. On the other hand, the magic tome Gleipnir, the dark legendary tome, does have a pretty formidable might of 23. That's pretty big, but it suffers from a couple of disadvantages. The first being a weight of 20, which renders doubling with it extremely challenging, especially for a low con unit like Knoll. And on top of that, it is the only legendary weapon in the game that provides no bonus damage versus monster units, making it virtually, I won't say useless, but close to useless against the Demon King. With this information, it's pretty simple to surmise that Druid is the better of the 2 classes for soloing the game. Not saying in general, I'm just saying for solo runs. However, since this is Knoll, and you guys have been begging me to do this run, anticipating it so much, I decided to do something special, and I will attempt the run as a summoner to make it even harder on myself. And I want to make it clear right now, I'm like 90% sure the summoner run might be, I won't say impossible, but close to impossible. But again, we'll see how it goes. I'll keep a backup save file just in case I need to try again with the Druid, which should be much easier. Well, I think. So as the next chapters roll ahead of us, Knoll will kind of power through the rest of the early-ish game with ease, since the early promo item does allow magic users to transition into a dominating powerhouse a few chapters earlier than other units. While his avoid and defense remains somewhat mediocre, the phantoms do allow Knoll to relieve a little bit of that pressure off of himself by having an extra decoy to take some of the heat at times. On chapter 8, we'll rescue Ephraim and crew from the left side as per usual, because saving them does make it a lot more consistent and allows us to grab the extra keys they grabbed on chapter 5X. Because yes, I never show it, but I always have to play through chapter 5X. I could remove it, but then it would affect the times negatively in the end. So I have to go play through it every single time. Right after her, we'll pick up the angelic robe and clear the first part of the game and head into the mid game, where we will take Erica's route as she is the one we switch Knoll with. And our first stop will be chapter 9. Right off the bat, as there are a few significant things to talk about here. First off, the house on the left with the second dragon shield of the game that we more often than not skip due to the fact that low movement characters can't outpace the pirates in a solo run. But Knoll is actually one of the few characters who can save that specific house and grab himself a little bit more tankiness. And that's all thanks to phantoms. See, phantoms have a 0 movement restriction and can move up to 5 squares, meaning that essentially Knoll, in a sense, has 11 movement. He can walk up, summon, and this phantom can walk a little bit up. So the plan is simple. Use the phantom to either slow down or intercept the 2 pirates entirely to save the house. There is one tiny caveat to the whole thing. The phantoms, as mentioned earlier, only have a single HP point and don't necessarily have the best avoid in the world. It is a little bit better than earlier as their stats scale off the level of the summoner, and Knoll is a little bit higher up in level this time around. So in theory, this whole thing is doable, but in practice, it comes off a little bit harder to do because the phantoms will easily perish before they can accomplish their mission. Or Knoll can sometimes just die over and over and over again. It happens a lot. He has the bulk of a wet paper towel. And on top of that, we have to do it quickly enough to have time to talk to Amelia, who spawns at the bottom, to grab the Speedwing. So once again, we're on the clock here. And additionally to all that, chapter 9 doesn't have the best cover for low survivability units like Knoll. So doing these plays where rushing is key really isn't part of his wheelhouse. It isn't his strong suit, let's say. So we could abandon the item. But sometimes I tend to believe in the odds and I push through and try a couple more times. I will also say that usually on chapter 9, I'm still using vulneraries, but for Knoll specifically, because he got hit way too much for way too much, I had to switch up to elixirs way earlier than I usually do. So that does say a lot about his general survival abilities. They're bad, guys. They're terrible character. And here it is finally. We grab that darn Draco shield. I swear to God, I think I played this map for an hour. And we also pick up the Speedwing, clean up this map, and move on to Pablo. This map and the few following it will be as per usual in all our runs. Very easy. The mid-game of Erica's route in solo format is quite a breeze. But from those maps, we'll grab a goddess icon, a secret book, and an extra energy ring. But while chapter 14 plays in the background, I want to talk about another dark tome that is available to me in shops around this portion of the game. And that is Luna. This tome is a pretty infamous tome in GBA Fire Emblem. It's kind of only, well, I guess it's available in 3 houses, but mostly known for GBA Fire Emblem. First off, in FE7, it's an absolutely busted tome. It has 95% hit, 20% crit, and while its might is of 0, it has a special effect that makes it good against all enemies, since it basically nullifies all resistance, meaning you're essentially dishing out true damage. While this special effect carries over to FE8, it's exactly the same, not much else does. And Luna was nerfed right into the core of the earth, because it has 50% hit right now and 10% crit. Oh, how the mighty have fallen. In FE8, Luna is usually an afterthought. It's used sometimes, but you're gonna be holding on that flux a lot more than Luna, because it has lost a lot of its potency and will be relegated to niche situations. But lucky for us, this whole run is a niche situation and Luna will come in handy later. But you may see me use it here and there from time to time. And now it is time for the most annoying chapter of Sacred Stones. Actually, second most annoying. Chapter 18 sucks. Chapter 15, we're on chapter 15. So this chapter is especially interesting for a character like Knoll for a few reasons. First off, we get to see OG Knoll, the original Knoll that we've been making fun of, and we have to say hi to him, and immediately bye-bye, friend. And by the way, I will say it's not because we've seen Knoll die over and over in this run that we will rob ourselves of the small pleasure of bullying this man. I will not be robbed of this tiny source of joy that I get every time I make one of these videos. But back to why this chapter is interesting. The big appeal of this map comes from the fact that there are treasures hidden all around the sand, and that these treasures are only obtainable through a luck calculation, and if I understand correctly, is your luck stat plus 1%, which here is about 6%. 6%. Okay. So for low luck characters like Knoll, it looks pretty bad. And especially because he's one of those guys that's gonna want a lot of the items here. Well, not a lot, but a couple of important items. Let's check out what they are. First, there's the Swift Soul, which will increase his movements. Most units want the Swift Soul. It does help a lot. But as someone pointed out in the Kyle and Ford run, where I spent probably 50 turns waiting with Kyle, there is probably a point of diminishing returns for the boots, because at some point you're spending so much time waiting that the turns, the +2 movement saves in the map ahead becomes kind of irrelevant. And I do agree with that statement. I should probably try to figure out what that point is, but at the time of recording the run, I haven't really had the time to think about it or really just, you know, delve into like how many turns it's saving us. Really, it's kind of a little bit of work, and I really wanted to get this video out, so here we are. The second item Knoll will more than likely appreciate is the body ring, given his pretty low constitution and the general weight of dark magic tomes. And finally, this will relay us into our third item that we will want, and that is the Eclipse Tome. Yeah, we want the Eclipse Tome. We won't talk about Eclipse right away. It's a pretty memey tome in GBA Fire Emblem for a lot of reasons. It's generally considered a terrible tome. I mean, you could probably see in this video enemy druids trying to hit me with it and having almost 0% chance. The thing never hits, or rarely hits. But it is important for our final strategy, but we'll get to why a little later. But as you may have been seeing in the background, we're not really getting anything sitting on that fort. That's where the boots are, and nothing is coming up for us. And I do think I come up with a creative solution here to not waste too many turns by using summons to help us out. So I will spawn them to go do a lot of the work for us. And you may ask yourself, why not use the summons to grab the items since they have better luck than Knoll? And that answer is simple. It's because you cannot trade with the summons, or else we would have saved so much time. But no, unfortunately, they grab an item, they will die with it and lose it for you. So we have to rely on 6%. But they can help us kill some units on this map. So I do send them out to try and whittle down the enemy's numbers. The one advantage Knoll gains on this map has to be the fact that he's a mage, which means he doesn't get slowed down by the sand. And that will allow us to pivot quickly from summoning to going and actually help Dusel on the left-hand side of the map when it looks like he's about to die and drop Ephraim into an assured game over. So for now, we'll put the Boots project on hold and go help with the left side of the map, since the summons can only do so much for us. Unfortunately, Dusel will die. You know, it will happen and drop Ephraim, but we do manage to save him in the end, so all is well. But I have to be honest with you guys, I did end up using Ephraim to grab the body ring because I was getting a little ticked off at that point, and I allowed myself some latitude for one of the items. All the others, if I want them, I have to use Knoll. I skirted the rules a little bit here. Next up, we're gonna go kill Valter first, which we never do. We usually go kill Calic first to grab the Hopland Guard and avoid the crits from Valter. But this time around, the reason we're gonna go kill Valter is because we want to grab the Eclipse Tome as soon as possible. And if Valter's the last enemy on the map and we kill him and the Eclipse Tome is still in the sand, well, we're gonna be cooked. And since it's right beside him, well, we're gonna have to wait there a couple of turns, and we get actually pretty lucky here. We don't spend too much time and we dig it up, so that's pretty good. And that's when I decide to go back to the middle fort and try to spam phantoms and wait on the fort to grab the boots once again. But after a lot of turns of nothing happening and my phantoms getting quickly dispatched by the myrmidons, I end up giving up on the boost project because at this point it's just not gonna happen. I don't think our luck is high enough for it to happen, so I head up to the left and attempt to finish a map, take care of Calic as it should be, which we actually do pretty easily, which is nice, but the map doesn't end. Oh, it's because we forgot about that one berserker on the right side who doesn't move unless you're in his range. So we head towards that guy, but you know what? Let's give it a couple more turns on the fort and set out a few phantoms on him. Let's say, you know, the phantoms kill him. We get a couple more turns to wait and maybe we'll get the boots. But honestly, I doubt it. It's only going to take a few turns as the phantoms should easily be... Oh, we got the boots. Damn, that only took like a million years. Okay, well, with that being done, we finally cleared chapter 15 and we can move the fuck on. So now we finally can talk about our level 20 Knoll. And the one you're seeing right here is post chapter 16. So that means that it's after grabbing the talisman that does cap out our resistance. And at first glance, he's looking pretty good. Capped res, capped magic, and good skill and defense to boot compared to his normal averages, that is. But I want you guys to all keep in mind that he got 2 secret books, 1 speedwing, 1 goddess icon, and 2 Draco shield. So while his stats look way above average, they are all technically hovering around the averages, which is okay, by the way. As long as we're not looking worse than the averages, things should be all right. But the one marker that concerns me is his 22 speed. And while you see Knoll struggle with chapter 16, because why wouldn't each struggle with every single chapter known to man, I want to talk about our endgame strategy a little bit. Because I'm pretty sure Knoll can make it there, but there's a huge problem once you're there concerning the speed. See, given that we have no super effective damage, Gleipnir will most likely not be used for the Demon King. But we have a window thanks to Eclipse and Luna. Because as previously mentioned, Luna ignores all defense, so it's true damage. And Eclipse's special skill, as much as the Dark Tomes do have, other than being a long range tome that is, has to do with reducing enemies' HP by half and killing if at 1 HP. So all that is a pretty good strategy to kill him. Use the long range tome to chip him down, or Luna, combination of both, should work. But one big problem with the strat is that Luna has a hit rate of 50%, as we've previously highlighted, and Eclipse of 30%. Luckily, Knoll's skill is at 26, so that will help with the hit rate, but Luna will not double given that it has a weight of 12, so we will need a speed of around 25 to 26 to double, and that is not something I see happening very often on Knoll with 35% growth in speed. So we do have a path, but it is quite tedious if you ask me. Hence why resetting for speed is not a viable strategy, because that will require an amount of luck that is pretty big. And after a few tries, we end up finishing chapter 16 and move closer to that endgame where we'll see if our previously highlighted strategy works. So I don't usually spend any time on this chapter, but of course Knoll is a unique case given how peculiar dark magic is in GBA Fire Emblem. So we're going to talk about it. And there's 2 significant tomes on this map, those being Nosferatu, which we've already talked a little bit about, and Fenrir. And both of these tomes are held by Leon. And once he's slayed, he drops the one he isn't using at the moment. So you may think that the one we'd want is Fenrir, given that there's only a single copy of it available in the game. And while it has no special effects attached to it like the other Dark Tome, it does have an impressive might of 15. But while this tome may feel like a nice novelty to have, it has a massive weight of 18. So by that point, you're probably better off using Gleipnir and trading off the 2 speed you're going to lose from the 2 more weight for the 8 more damage and 10% more accuracy. And on top of that, the +5 skill passive effect. So Fenrir isn't that interesting in the grand scheme of things. On the other hand, he does have Nosferatu, which as previously highlighted, does come in handy in a run where you can only use 1 elixir per map. And it's almost as rare as Fenrir in this game, because outside of Knoll's copy that he is holding and Leon's copy, it's one of the hardest tomes to obtain, because either you get it in a chest in the runes or the tower, which is post-game stuff so we don't do it in this run. You have to grab it from the vendor on this map. But big caveat there, it's only available during the map. It is not available on the post chapter shop which you can access through the overworld map. Nosferatu is only available on the map itself, and I did not know that while making the video. I thought it was going to be available after. So if you're like me and you forget to pick it up, well, screw me, I guess, you know. We're going to have to deal with the few Nosferatu tomes we get throughout this run. So killing Leon and obtaining Nosferatu over Fenrir was a happy accident that you're going to understand why a little later in the video, why it's a good thing. At this point, I believe we're all aware that chapter 18 sucks. No one likes stone. Not a single person does. It's annoying, but this chapter is pretty important for solo runs, as it is a big indicator and roadblock that can signal if the run will continue or not. And heading into this, I naively thought this was going to be the one time Knoll would shine. Yeah, I had a little bit of hope that this run wouldn't be 100% annoying, but the rule maintains itself for chapter 18. This run remains annoying because while he does have good resistance, I overlooked a very important fact. This mother flipper is allergic to dodging. Look at those hit rates. I believe even Gilliam wasn't that bad. At the very least, Knoll does have summons to help out and distract some attention away from him, so it does make the chapters somewhat manageable, as they'll do a lot of the heavy lifting. And here is the best example of that, as this Gorgon here is usually pretty annoying. We'll use a summon to attack her, kill her axe, it doesn't crit. The Phantom survives one of the hit, but then takes the attention away from us and gets the Gorgon to attack him instead. We will try to attack him again with a second Phantom, it works. See how they're missing him, and then he kills people all around. So Phantoms are useful for this part of the game. We'll walk him forward. We'll also take time to walk Knoll forward. The Phantom dies, stone 40%, and we get crit. Of course we get crit. So we had 3 units left. There was 3 units left. I naively thought that somehow maybe the Phantom would dodge. Maybe we dodge, and I threw it all away for a quick win. And I think you just realized I rage quitted. That was the moment I took a break that night from the run because I was getting a little sick of it. And I took it back up the next day because 40% hit by stone really does suck. We do spend another good bit of time the next day on this map because things like that simply just keep on happening. The Phantoms can be really useful, but their frail nature does bite them in the butt sometimes. And sometimes it'll cost me equally. So yeah, our Phantom here just dies and we get hit by stone. So I guess it's gonna be a reset again, but I'm full health actually. This guy does 0, this guy does 6. Wait a minute, if that guy does not crit once, this might be okay. 2 hits in, no crit because the stone does last 5 turns. 3rd hit, no crit because the evil eye is not hurting at all, so I don't care about him. But our 4th hit, no crit. I think even if he critted the last one, it would have been fine. And we get to clear him out. Okay, well, that was lucky. That was the luck that very rarely happened with Knoll, but it happened this time. So I guess sometimes it does work in your favor. And even though that was extremely lucky, this, well, fittingly enough, ended up being the attempt that got us through chapter 18. Now that that is behind us, let's take a look at the couple of chapters ahead of us, which are a little easier until we get to the final chapter. Well, that's just more of a general rule of thumb, but I'm pretty sure it's going to apply to Knoll too. So I will say that I did try to go get the speed wing on the left side of the map since our speed is low, and I try to use the Phantoms to finagle something to maybe be able to like slow things down or send them over to Reeve. It didn't work. Mansell just gets overrun way too quickly for any strat to really matter other than rushing down Reeve. So we end up doing that and giving up on that speed wing. If anybody has a kind of a theory for how to maybe get that second speed wing, leave it in the comments, but I've never really come up with anything. Maybe I'm just dumb, but I think it might be one of those things that we just have to give up every time. Next up, we have chapter 20, which usually isn't hard. It can, however, be long and tedious, and that for Knoll is no different, as he has to go all the way around. I guess I could have gone through the bottom, but I didn't think about it at the time. That's on me. But there's a lot of forest tiles which do help him out with the dodge, but even then it won't stop him from dying to stupid crap. like he's done this entire run, but we do make it all the way to Morva here. And what we'll do is simple. We will be using Luna to will enemy phase as we are full health. He will most likely hit us. We do get hit by that death coil. Oh wait, that wasn't part of the plan. Oh no, and Morva kills us. That was some bad strategizing. That was on me. I didn't think about it. But yeah, we can't really leave anything up to chance with this guy. So what's the solution here? Well, that's a pretty simple one. We just have to be a little slower and make sure we cleared most of the reinforcements before enemy phasing in the zombie dragon. I took a risk. I wanted to gain some time, win some times, cut off some time off the run, which I'm usually able to do, but I don't think Knoll is one of those characters where cutting time off the run will be something we should even try. And this is pretty emblematic of why this character has been so annoying so far. It's not that things aren't possible. They're very much possible. We got to this point. It's just that everything takes generally a little bit more time or mental power to figure out than with other units. You have to be a little bit more deliberate with every single thing you do. You can't leave anything up to a little bit of chance, or I guess you can't take shortcuts. You have to do everything by the book, and it makes it a lot more tedious than with a lot of other characters. But it's okay. We finally make it back to the zombie dragon. No enemies around, and we're ready to take him on. I just gotta make sure we have our Luna equipped and that we use our elixir before and I went too fast and didn't heal. These are the joys of playing at 3 times speed. Sometimes you'll make mistakes. That'll cost you the next 20 minutes of your life. And it's one of those times. I just went past the item button and pressed waited by accident. But worry not. The next attempt we make it back and take care of him with Luna as it should be. It's done. This map is over. This headache is over. It's time for the moment of truth. Everyone can all do it. Final chapter. Here we come. And here we get started with a normal assortment of skeletons rushing us down. With the help of phantoms, we'll quickly dispatch of them all and move to our next objective, which will be the angelic robe on the right hand side, because more HP can always be a little helpful. Despite the fact that Knoll has 11 defense, I'd rather be safe than sorry at that point. We've learned from our mistakes. And we'll quickly transition to the zombie dragon once that is done. And here the strategy is clear. It's also the reason that Nosferatu from earlier was so gosh darn valuable. And so we get a nice crit on that enemy phase and one turn the zombie dragon. Easy breezy. The best way to counter true damage, I get, is just to heal it right back up. This saves us an elixir going into the final fight. We'll clear out the right side and the incoming death goyles that will attack us. And some of you may have thought that I'd take on the left path instead, because if you take the left side, left bridge, evil eyes will spawn on the right side instead of the death goyles you're seeing that spawn from the left here. And Knoll would have an easier time against the eyes, but the one thing I didn't like on the left was fighting the very fast evil dogs instead of the slow spiders. So I went on the right side. It's bad for my defense, but the dodge is a little bit more in favor of Knoll, and also the doubling is too. But anywho, none of that ends up mattering too much as we open up a path. And here, taking it a little slower might have been a good idea, given that Leon was fantastic resistance, so I have to use Luna, which also means being slowed down by the extra weight and being an easier target for the Gorgons around. So we end up using a pure water and enemy phasing here. We hit the first one easily. We get the double Leo and we get a big crit here, taking us to the Demon King easily on our first try. There was ways to approach this a little safer, but we got there on our first try. So that's positive. That's finally something that goes smoothly. Good job, Knoll. Good job. That's the first and last time you'll hear me say that, I assure you. All right, let's see how this goes. Demon King in. Yeah, 51% chance to hit from Luna. 27 damage is nice, especially if we hit that 7% crit. And let's just check Gluttner for fun. 9 damage. The hit rate is better though, but we get double because it's so freaking heavy. So as I said earlier, we can't double the Demon King. That's a problem. So what exactly is the strategy here? Well, get lucky, really. That's the strategy. Get very lucky. Like we do here, and we hit the first. Then once we've done that, we back off with Nosferatu, where we'll use it to heal back up. The one issue we have, though, is that I forgot to give Ephraim healing items again. But apart from that, the next step would be to use Eclipse to chip the Demon King down as low as possible before we ultimately hope for some luck on our side. Eventually, it's all going to be about luck. So here Ephraim dies because of my mistakes, but let's make it right back to the Demon King because getting back here is pretty easy. That's the one thing so far that's been easy, getting back to the final stage. So I won't bore you with multiple replays of the stage before that. You guys kind of know the strategy. It's pretty simple. But for the record, evil eyes with long range spells are the absolute worst, because that was our next attempt making it back. Even with the healing items, that didn't matter, huh? And the next attempt is filled with stone yielding gorgons, and yeah, of course we get hit by it and eventually die. I'm starting to believe getting a clean shot at him is much harder than actually beating him, but we actually won't really have an answer to that until we beat the freaking reinforcements. All right, so we make it back for a fourth time. Let's see if this time things will be a little bit simpler for us. Okay, so we begin by attacking him with Luna, as is customary, and we hit him. Okay, so first off, so far so good. We get hit back, 86% chance. That's kind of expected. So all these reinforcements show up. We got to get out of this guy's range as quickly as possible and take care of them, because they're proven to be like even more of a problem than him at times. So I'll back up in this corner and I will use Nosferatu to kill the Stone Gorgon, hoping that I don't get hit by 53 and also healing up in the process. I do dodge. That was risky, but we kind of really need her to get out of the way generally. Ephraim's probably going to get attacked by that evil eye, but that's okay. He's got potions to survive for now. He can hold it down for us. All right, the enemies show up and, you know, as was expected, he does dodge. So that's good. That helps us out. And the other enemies are going to start surging forward towards us, but none of them are too scary to me. They will well, the rune sword skeletons will not hurt at all, but the other death goyles will probably, yeah. Oh, we dodged that 59. That's pretty good. And we clear out that one. I think there's two more, and 62. Yeah, we get hit by that, but we heal it back up thanks to Nosferatu. Great tome. We love Nosferatu, but it breaks, unfortunately. And now we got a longbow guy. We dodge him out. Okay, so we'll skip a little bit ahead because what's left is pretty easy to take care of. We don't run into too many issues here. Yeah, so here we finish off longbow guy. We end our turn, and now let's try to test out some eclipse shot at him, shall we? We finally get a chance to frigging test it out. 47%, 37 damage, but 31 hit rate. And I did end my turn there and wait because I want to see if proximity changed anything on the hit rate. It doesn't. Well, let's just start chucking eclipse at him and see if maybe one's gonna hit. That'd be nice. Oh, first miss, and one down, 4 to go. Here's attempt number 2, and we miss. And unsurprisingly, that's 31%, man. God damn it, this is so luck based. Okay, can we hit that one? Do we hit those? We don't hit those. We do not. Okay, 2 left. If we could hit at least one, that'd be great. I'd love it. And we do. Okay, we hit one. Okay, we have 1 left. We're gonna use it. Let's see how it goes. Last one's the charm, and there's a miss. Okay, well, at least we hit 1, so 1 is kind of what I was expecting out of this. So now we gotta kill with Luna, but the problem is Knoll gets 2 shot by this guy. So if I hit him and he hits me back, well, then he's gonna just back off and straight up just murder me because he's got 86% chance to hit. Not expecting a dodge here, but I get an idea. Let's use the summons to bait his attack towards that instead of us. It's been working all game, so that is a creative way to use the summons. Use it as a way for the Demon King to focus on the summons. So we placed him in range. We attack with that 51%. We hit, that's good. And we get hit back as expected. So now he's probably going to go attack the summon and then we can finish it off. We could probably... Wait, he attacked me? Wait, that's not the... Oh, and we dodge, okay? But wait, why did he ignore the summons? That makes no goddamn sense. But he's in range here. If we hit that Luna, he's in range. We'll plug Glep there just to check, but you know, 10 damage. It's not happening. We gotta go with Luna. Okay, does that hit? Please hit, please hit. We can finish it here, and we miss. Can we dodge again? No, there was no shot. There was no. Okay, we got very close here. It's annoying that he doesn't go for the Phantom, but we did get very close. But even though we got close, as you can see, there is a lot of things that can go very wrong with this. The amount of luck you need for things to work out is pretty big. So just getting to this point was extremely tough, and then you have to add another layer of difficulty to it. And maybe it's because of how easy the first part of this was because of all the different ways you can handle Leon and the Gorgons. But the second part really is the tough part. And not just the Demon King. The Demon King, as you just saw, very luck-based, very circumstantial if you're going to hit those. But even just getting to fight him, just the reinforcements around him are tough for Knoll because he doesn't have really good dodge rate no matter what tome he's yielding. But we'll fight through and give it another go. So we make it back and we will go again with a strategy of attacking with Luna. 51% chance. We get a crit off the bat. Oh, that's really good actually. We get hit back 88, but we do get a crit. Okay, there is a world where this goes in our favor and we gotta get out of here. There's a zombie dragon in the way. That's gonna be tough. So I go up to the left side. I will use Nosferatu to kill the evil eye. That's probably one of my best bets, really. And we'll manage to heal, not all the way back up, but close to it. So the other enemies will probably come and attack us. Yeah, and here they come. Let's hope we dodge that 50. Okay, we dodged a 54% stone. Now we got to keep backing up, and we'll use the summons to help us out with those reinforcements over here. So I'll back up here. I will make sure that my flux is equipped, and then I will summon a little friend to maybe take out the stone gorgon beforehand. So let's give it a shot here. We miss, and they also miss. Okay, well, that's kind of useless. Ephraim down there is going to kind of run around with his doggo, so we're going to let him have some fun here. You gotta make sure he stays out of the range of the zombie dragon. Okay, so the phantoms almost kill this guy. We get hit by this guy. Luckily with the Hopland guard because that killing edge would have been bad, but we did get hit though, that 50%. Unfortunate. Ephraim survives that. That's pretty good. Another hit. 10 damage is bad, but that was bound to hit. And now it's out. We want to stay out of the range of the Gorgon. She's gonna be really tough. Now we're gonna have 2 dogs to deal with, but we're gonna keep using the summons to help us out a little bit, try to clear out some enemies. So the Tomahawk here, it can one-shot if it hits. Let's hope it misses. Okay, well, it's gonna distract somebody for like a second, so that might be useful. We're gonna try to hide Ephraim away from Knoll, but I forgot to give him items again. What am I doing? Okay, go to the supply front. At least luckily we brought down Knoll to get him some supplies, because that would have been really bad if we lost the one time we do get a crit, bro. That would have been terrible. We heal up. Okay, enemy phase time. The phantom dies immediately. Okay, that's great. Second dog now attacks Knoll. Knoll's getting low on HP. I'm kind of scared. Ephraim's low on HP. I'm so terrified. Okay, we gotta get out of here somehow, man. We gotta get out of here. So first off, we'll kill this dog. So that's 1 dog down, and we'll move Ephraim out of the way. He's still gonna be able to be in range of the dogs, but that's kind of to be expected. He kind of like lures them away. So it's 1 less person attacking Knoll, I guess. And again, he gets hit. So now we want to make sure the Gorgon dies because we're in a range of her stone. So that's kind of our biggest concern here, which is why we will summon here and use the summon to kill her, or at least hit her once. Okay, that's not great. We do dodge. That's great. Okay, so that guy attacks us. Oh my god, that spider could have killed Knoll. The reinforcements are scarier than the Demon King. What's going on here? Ephraim's gonna keep getting chewed out by this guy. 46%. We dodged. Thank the Lord, man. And now we're gonna back up again, stay out of the range of the other enemies, be able to kill the dog using Nosferatu to heal up a little bit so that the problem with the spider doesn't happen again. Because that would be terrible, and we don't want that. We want to keep people alive. So we're gonna summon again. Now that they're close by, stay out of that guy's range, of course. But we will try to summon right here. And now it's time to kill this guy. Please kill. Thank God it kills. Okay, they go for it, and he kills everybody except the zombie dragon. But that's okay. That's okay, because the zombie dragon is pretty easy to take care of Nosferatu. We get to heal up off of him, but we will enemy phase to do that. And here we go. We attack this guy, and as you can see, we're going to heal up off of him. Now let's skip ahead, once he's dead, to the Demon King. So we pull out Eclipse. We are ready to go. Let's start bombarding this man with 20 damage here. Come on, he dodges. Yeah, that was expected. All right, once again, another 20 damage, please. Let's do it. Let's do it. That crit really does help out. It chipped him down enough. If we could just get 1 of these to hit, that would be perfect. He dodged again. We got 2 left, so that's not looking good for us. Come on, just give me 1. Give me 1, man. Give me 1. And here it is. Let's go. Okay, he's down to 19 HP. We got 1 left. Let's just throw it out. Let's just throw it out. Maybe we get lucky here. Oh, and my God, we get lucky. Wait, he has 9 HP. That means we have a shot. Okay, we can use Luna. But what you'll see me do here is I'll pull out other tomes just in case there's a shot with other tomes that are maybe more accurate. Gleipnir, is it your time to shine, my friend? Is it Gleipnir's time to shine, and it's exactly 9 damage with 91% chance to hit. Let's go for it. Do we hit? We hit with a very cool animation. At least we won. Let's go. And as you can see, I'm standing on this screen for a little bit because I was flabbergasted that we got this freaking lucky. 230% chance to hit did hit him, plus a 7% chance crit. That's the luck it took. I can't believe the chips fell all the way in our favors. And I had at this point started to believe that this might have been impossible. But sometimes the chips just fall in your favor, and a little bit of perseverance makes it all work in the end. I am floored by the way this ended. Before we look at the official placement, I want to show you guys Knoll's fight with the Demon King as a druid. Because I said earlier in the video, I did keep a second run just in case. And I kind of want to show you guys how different it would have been. I don't do that for every character, but this is kind of a special character, so why not? And I won't talk about the rest of the run as a druid for multiple reasons. One of them being that this video has gone on for long enough. So let's just look at this real quick. You can see here that the Demon King fight, yes, we do have the super effective damage from Excalibur because druid get access to anima magic. It's not that much less luck base. We do have the super effective damage, but we have to dodge to beat him. At least once. Same scenario. Not enough defense on Knoll's side to be able to take a hit, which means that we have to dodge 75 instead of like 86%. Yeah, it's better, but it still requires some amount of luck. And I thought that was important to look at because Knoll just requires any form you look at him, even the one I thought was arguably better, still requires maybe less luck, like a lot less luck, but it's still kind of quintessential to how his run is going to go. So it's there for those who did wonder about, what about Druid? Well, as you can see, that's what about Druid. So if everything's said and done, I have kept you guys long enough for this video. It is possible to solo FE8 using only Knoll, but it's a miserable experience through and through. It was one of the worst runs I have done in a long time. One of the most annoying and just obnoxious run that I had done in a long time. It required a lot of luck. Lots of things have to go your way. We got a chapter 5 reset, which is very unusual, and a lot more unforced game overs than usual on just like random chapters where it doesn't really happen usually. And here are Knoll's endgame statistics. He finishes at 8 hours and 35 minutes of in-game time and the turn count of 413. So nothing amazing here when you're looking at what we already have down here. And honestly, I'm actually surprised. I thought the turns and times would be a little bit higher, if I'm being honest. But they're still kind of in the worst that we're seeing on the screen. But it will still make the placement tough, but that's not because he's any good. That's because Ross is kind of a sore thumb where he is. He has horrendous time and turn counts, but the feel of the run felt okay, if I remember correctly. And I think he's there more by virtue that he was my second run overall than anything else. And I think we should do a run back at some point to see how much those stats hold up in comparison to other characters with the knowledge I have like today after doing this multiple times over. We'll see. I might end up doing that on some random live stream, so hit the sub button if you don't want to miss that in case in the future. But back to Knoll. I think he goes right above Gilliam, but in the same tier. The way I look at Knoll is more in comparison to the Gilliam and Doslo runs, who had both a crazy hard time against the Demon King, much like Knoll. Doslo, I feel, fits above Knoll just by virtue of pretty much everything outside the end was, well, way easier than Knoll. While Gilliam struggled, maybe less overall than Knoll, I feel, but he just felt so much slower and more tedious to carve your way through the game. And even though I often say that I don't refer to turn and times as the only metrics for judging these, because feel is so much more important how the run actually went than what goes on into those final two metrics. Sometimes when they're that far below everybody, when they're such a big outlier, it says a lot. It's telling a story in and of itself. And I think that's the case for Gilliam. So tell me what you think of Knoll's placement down in the gutter. I personally like it a lot and think he belongs there. But without further ado, thank you all for watching the video. Don't forget to leave a like. It was a blast doing this video. You guys wanted it for so long, and even though Knoll sucked, I had such a fun time doing it, and sorry it took so long to get out, but thank you all for watching. If you're still here, let me know in the comments, and check out the join button if you want to become a member. 10% off on the new merch. And on the subject of members, I'd love to give a huge shout out to our tier 2 members, Brawler456, Forgotten Fox, and Clutch McGee, and our tier 3 member, Michelle. Thank you to the 4 of you so much for the support. And thank you all for watching. See you guys in the next one. Have a great week, month, day, whatever time frame you want to use, and bye-bye.